He had his gun, so he just swung it open.
I start to notice that, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird.
First thing he seen was this 6.5 foot tall, broad shoulder, dark hair. That freaked him out.
We hadn't talked to her about like life and death and what any of that means. She's 3 years old,
So we turned around. Suddenly there's a whole tree falling across the road.
And she was describing to us that, there was a deceased person that she could see visually.
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, where we tackle the ever-expanding history and mystery of monsters and supernatural madness every Monday. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca for more information, or even check out exclusive content and support us at patreon.com/CryptidClues. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cryptid Clues. I'm your host, Reuben, followed by your other also host, Taylor. And today we're going to be talking about some mysterious lights over Canada. But before we dive into that, shout out to a previous encounter episode that we just released featuring Derek Young telling of his remote cabin Sasquatch experience. It is a wonderful encounter. Please go give that a listen and then come right back to this episode if you haven't listened to that one yet already. Taylor, I'm going to pass it over to you and we'll get this ball rolling.
Yes, so just like you alluded to there's been some interesting lights going on around Canada, particularly the prairies. Now, January 19th, 2024, several pilots began reporting seeing multiple lights appearing up in the sky, forming triangle-shaped formations. And so the prairies, which is primarily the province of Saskatchewan, I would say. Now, this whole chunk of audio was about 2.5 hours long. Ooh. And this was downloaded from a website called liveatc.net, which is a streaming archive site for air traffic control radio. I did not know that this was a thing, but this is a thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the link to the cut down version will be available in our episode description down below. However, I'm going to be playing cutout clips throughout this episode here as we discuss the events kind of unfolding. So it kind of is like a more condensed, honed in focal point. But essentially, the audio itself is between multiple plane pilots discussing the lights with each other and their air traffic controller. So whenever, are you ready? You want me to just play the first one here?
I mean, absolutely. This sounds super, super intriguing because if this is recorded from air traffic control radio and it's like different pilots and stuff, it's not just some random Joe on the street uploading some audio to a website that he could have easily thrown together. Granted, absolutely. I don't know anything about Live ATC, but let's see what this is.
Well, let me ask you one more quick thing. Did you have any pre-existing knowledge of what this was, or like seen in the news or anything like that?
Oh, mysterious lights over Canada. I've had my head down like for the past 2 weeks. I've been looking at the floor. I haven't looked up at all.
Okay, well then this should be an interesting little surprise for you then. So here's our first one. This is titled Morningstar 7062. That's the flight.
Okay.
Star 7062, go ahead.
Yeah, is there any active military airspace just like north of Winnipeg?
No, nothing I'm aware of. You said north of Winnipeg?
Yeah.
No, not right now.
Okay. Lots of active bright lights, information 3, and they look like they're at like 500 or something, just trying to figure it out.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't heard anything. I'll check ahead with the next sector. That could be.
Alrighty then. Thanks for checking.
And you said around 50,000 feet, roughly. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, it's hard to say, but yeah, it keeps being like 3 to 4 really bright lights, and they kind of were in like a triangle formation, and then it looks like the little dipper for a bit, and then they disappear, and then they come back.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. I'll just take a note, but yeah, I can't think of what that might be.
Okay. It was going on a loop. I had to stop it. But yeah, there's the first clip right there. So something is going down and they're calling it in. There's nothing like military oriented going on, and
yeah, I liked her reaction to that where she's like, okay.
Yeah. It's just I feel like these are very common, but it's not it's not. What are you going to do about it? And that's something that I think I put it in the notes to discuss later. There's only so much that they can do without actual solidified evidence of like, okay, there's an actual ship here, weapons hot. Like, is it not really a threat to national security? So they only have so much of a response they could do, and we already know there's not a proper filing system for this sort of stuff. Number 2, Flair 600 and Air Canada 7086.
Yeah, Winnipeg, Flair Canada 7086.
Yeah, 7086, go ahead.
Aircraft 12 o'clock, same altitude. Is that one ours?
It's a Flair flight.
Sorry, somebody from Flair 600? Yeah, check Canada 7086. Do you see these lights, 12 o'clock? See something flashing light around 11:30, Flair 600. Yeah, forming triangles, and then flying away and coming back. Big bright light that's coming towards us, slightly above us, Flair 600. More than 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, Flair 600. Take from Canada 7086. Do you have any traffic out there?
No, I had one other report 10 minutes ago from a Morningstar flight east of Regina. Reported the same thing. Her best guess was around somewhere around flight level 500, and thought it might be somewhere north of Winnipeg. So yeah, do you have a guess as to what you might think the altitude is?
Hard to tell, just because the evening, I'd say she's probably pretty accurate, but they keep forming up in a triangle, and then yeah, it's pretty odd.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the second report then, and yeah, there's no active airspace, military airspace, anything like that we're aware of. I honestly have no idea what that might be.
Oh, good.
Okay, it's hard to tell when it's looping.
When it's
but I
looping,
think
yeah.
I got it. Yeah,
I liked his reaction as well at the end. Like, oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
There's a
good.
bit of sarcasm there. Like he was like, oh, lovely. There can only be one other thing then.
Yeah, just
Like
feeling
they're used to it.
completely helpless and powerless in this situation. Like, what? Oh, yeah. No one can offer any proper support or insight. Like, if you're flying out there and you come across something that is not responsive, like, I'd imagine everything is just a high frequency communication highway up there. You know where all the planes are, you know where all the trajectories are going, and so when you have something come into your airspace that is not communicating with you and moving on its own terms, it's very dangerous. And then it puts
And scary, yeah.
and very scary. It puts you as a pilot at risk. It puts all your passengers at risk. It's not good. So the next one, I believe I labeled it Air Canada 786. So it continues with that same flight. So here we go.
Okay.
D6, Roger. Had a company aircraft over Thunder Bay suggest he thinks it possibly could be satellites, and just based on the angle of the sun, it could be sunlight refracting off those satellites and just causing that.
I mean, I'm certainly no expert, but they're moving side to side and going away from each other, forming triangles, so it doesn't really seem like they're in any type of orbit. But, I mean, I'm no expert.
That was a short one, but yeah.
Yeah, that was a short one.
Trying to tell them that it could be like satellites or something, but then he mentions the movement and how they're going in and out. The audio was very low at the end there. It was intriguing.
That one, I apologize. I actually had to tweak that one a little bit because it was so staticky. The guy on the other end that acknowledges what he said, I don't think he really knew what he said because it was so choppy and staticky. So that was my attempt to actually clear it up a little bit, but I'll probably boost the audio. So in retrospect, it'll be nice and loud for you and you won't know what we're talking about.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. They talk about how it could be satellite shine or something along those lines, but the way that they're moving is maybe justifying it's not that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm super intrigued. I want to hear the next one. Next one.
This is Flair 600.
Go ahead.
The ship manager just came in, and they brought over the report that I'm going to fill out. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go through the questions with you, just because I wasn't here for the bulk of the reporting.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. First question is just a brief description of the sighting, number, size, shape, etc.
Multiple multiple single points of light will be the way we would describe this. Sometimes there were 3, sometimes there were 6, sometimes there's just some individual lights just flying at random intervals. There's no specific numbers, so to speak,
Okay, and the position of the sighted object or activity, I guess the first time you noticed it?
We're flying at flight level 370, we're flying eastbound on track 095 to 107-ish. And for the most part, it was at our 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock site, and it looked pretty high up in the altitude. We're getting anywhere between 70,000 feet all the way to 100.
Okay, that answers the next question about estimated altitude and direction of movement of the object.
Random all over the place. At times I saw three lights in a triangle formation, just flying in a random movement, up and down, left, right, all over the place.
Okay, the next one is speed. Was it moving fast or slow, or?
From what we could tell, they're moving at a very fast speed in all directions, very, very high speed.
And the last one is any observed identification or other significant information.
No, I think that's all that we got. Maybe I wish we could give more information, but yeah, this is all. Everything that we described right now is what we witnessed 3600.
Okay, no, that's great. I will fill out the form, and I think there were some reports from the controllers that were working overnight there, so that combined with this report, we'll give that to the shift manager, and then they'll send that off to North Bay.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, 600.
Thank you.
So there's a little bit more detail, and again, it just is more information compiled with the other pilots seeing a triangle formation of lights.
Mm-hmm. That they're moving like left and right, up, down, scattered about, and that they're really, really quick.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of completing this picture, this mental image of the triangular UFOs that are zipping around everywhere.
Yeah, and my I can't say experience, but my opinion is that triangle UFOs are probably one of the more common formations or sightings that people seem to be discussing and talking about. And it's interesting, too, how it's not necessarily limited to like 3 solid lights forming that shape, but separate individual lights that come together. Almost as if it's like smaller objects forming a... kind of like if you imagine when geese are flying, Canadian geese are flying, and they form that formation, that like triangle pointed formation, just so they can move through the air better. And I imagine maybe there's something similar to that with this case. I don't know, because I don't imagine that they have to worry about wind or anything along those lines, but there must be some benefit if this is indeed what we are speculating. Maybe there is some technological benefit to them making up a formation like this. And
yeah, that's so strange.
Yeah, it really is. So we have one more. This is titled Cargo Jet 937.
Next
the last
clip,
one.
Next clip.
This one is my favorite, so I enjoy.
And Winnipeg from Cargo Jet 937.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to add to that. I haven't seen them tonight, but we've been seeing those lights for probably the last 18 months or so, just for your information if you wanted to add that.
Okay, I will add that. And any specific area? Was it across the prairies or?
Yeah, over the prairies, just like Flair said, always eastbound and a little north of track, kind of at the 11 o'clock position. It's kind of been in that area for quite a while.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay. So,
over the last 18 months. That's over a year.
It is over a year. I have not heard a single thing about any of that for the past 18 months.
Wow.
You would think that would be reported in the news. And of course, I saw this in the news. It was a CTV article that had published it. I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. I'll look into it. But the fact that 18 months went by and it was not prominently published in any form of media, that's
no one's
upsetting.
talking about it.
No one is. And that's, again, we're not a news podcast. We're just Cryptid Clues. We like to discuss these mysterious things, but I feel like this is very mysterious and it should be discussed. I was on one of those planes going out towards Regina, going past the prairies. So, heck, most of us are just on our phones and we're looking down in the plane, but
yeah, I would have been looking out the window the whole time hoping to see these things.
Yeah, I should have been looking out the window. The lights are probably flying around out there.
And at night, too. I take the night trip. Mm-hmm. Look outside at night.
Yeah. So just to kind of touch a little bit more on some of the things that were mentioned from these clips, there are no business or commercial airplanes that can fly at 100,000 feet. And so we know that at some of the altitudes that were mentioned, okay, like this is not a commercial or public plane.
Right.
If it is
70,000 and up.
Mm-hmm. If it is something technologically advanced, we either would have to probably assume it is something privatized that we don't see Elon Musk is cooking something up, or this is something that we got to kind of accept the fact that this is one of those things. And I mean, you're not admitting that aliens are real, but it's kind of like what we've seen with the Congress discussion that was held a few months ago where they talked that UFOs and UAPs are real.
Yeah, and just to go off of that too, I just Googled here how high can a commercial plane fly, and it says that commercial planes fly at a maximum of around 42,000 feet. And corporate flights can achieve up to 50,000, but only if specifically designed for that purpose. So you need to have a more expensive aircraft for that. Achieving an altitude of 60,000 feet necessitates super efficient engines and glider-like wings. Super expensive aircraft. So that's like getting into military stuff even.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're getting to around the, it's called the exosphere. One of those layers of Earth's atmosphere. I think that's what happens when you hit that like 100,000 feet kind of margarine.
Margarine.
That's
the butter that's up in your space.
Margin. Sorry.
Bring some toast up there and be like, oh, it tastes so much better up here. I don't have to butter it at all.
It's the pressure. It affects the toast and the butter.
It's marginally better.
So they mentioned the possibility of satellites shining some light. Now, satellite flare or glint is the official term for the event when sunlight reflects towards the Earth after impacting a satellite's solar panels or the antennas or anything really shiny on a satellite.
But it would still stay forward in motion and not move.
Exactly.
It would just go on one line. And they described that as going left, right, up, down, every which way, forming formations, unforming formations. Or would that be unforming unformations? It's insane.
It seems to be a very prominent case of discussion regarding this whole ordeal is the fact that, okay, is it satellite glint? Is it not? And many people are really advocating for the fact that, yeah, it is just satellite flares just shining back. But as you said the movements just don't align, at least in my opinion, with what a satellite flare would be doing. Of course, there's thousands of satellites up there. And again, we already talked about how the sightings have been occurring over the past year. And then additionally, on top of all this, later that same day, Memphis air traffic control started experiencing similar situations. And I quote, this is basically I couldn't find an audio clip of this, but this was dialogue that was sourced through CTV. They pulled it.
Okay.
So, and I quote, "Definitely aliens," says one pilot, followed by another pilot stating, "We're north of Birmingham facing west, and we see multiple lights. Do you think it's Starlink? Negative, I don't think so. Starlink doesn't flash. Oh, whoa, yeah, I see it too. What are we looking at? Them in a triangle formation." End quote. So, same day, happening out in the United States. If you're unfamiliar with what Starlink is, it's basically a satellite internet constellation owned and operated by SpaceX. It provides coverage to over 71 countries. It's fantastic. They started launching satellites in 2019, and as of 2024, it consists of over 5,289 mass-produced small satellites in low Earth orbit. The planned total of launched satellites is 12,000, with a stretch goal of having 42,000 satellites in orbit. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So-
I've seen them a couple of times.
Absolutely, yeah. They're actually quite common here. It's neat. So it was back in October, I think, was the last time I saw them, and we're actually in Vernon going to the haunted maze, and you just look up, and yeah, you see them, just one giant line of lights just flowing up overhead, moving really, really fast. But again, like we discussed, they do not change direction or formation. It's that one cohesive shape and direction that they're going in. So there is always the light reflection, but even then, I don't know how it explains the flashing that we see them talking about now all of a sudden. That's very interesting. So 2 other reports from pilots have come through so far in 2024, notably on January the 4th from Porter Airlines in Ontario, and January 13th from a FedEx flight on the British Columbia coast. So there have been no follow-up reports regarding this incident from what I was able to find out, and at least to me, that's caused a degree of concern over such a lack of investigation and closure. But this doesn't necessarily mean aliens. It does mean we have consistent unidentified aerial phenomena moving around both Canadian and American airspace. And of course, until it poses a risk, they're going to keep on doing what they do. And we talked about this last year where these unidentified weather balloons were just popping up all over North American airspace, and some of them were being shot down, but there was not really any follow-up regarding some of the stuff. There's one in the Yukon that was shot down, and they say, oh, the debris, it's lost, can't find it now. But I'd like a more in-depth explanation over all of that stuff. But here we are, and we're no further ahead than where we were before, except with one exception. These things are happening more and more frequently.
Yeah. And they're being accepted too. Like, it's just, oh yeah, it happened. It was a thing. They're not really denying it anymore. They might try to say, well, it could have been this or it could have been that. But then when the pilots and air traffic control is saying, well, no, it's definitely not this, and they're still releasing it to the public, it's super interesting. My thoughts, though, because they obviously didn't say, oh, it's a ship. Oh, it has this kind of exterior to it. It's just lights. At what point do you think these things are maybe similar to like orbs or whatever that you see like with Bigfoot sightings, or some kind of like weird space phenomena that's just maybe some kind of like weird creature that just happens to be floating around our atmosphere that we don't get to see very much?
Atmospheric beasts. That's a very interesting notion, and there's a lot of discussion surrounding that as well. The idea of it being orbs, I never even thought about something like that. I always thought it was something more ground related,
Right.
But there's nothing attaching them to the ground at least in the reports. They're self-floating, capable, whatever they are, balls of light, orbs. So who's to say they can't technically go 100,000 feet up into the air, right?
Yeah. And I mean, if this has been happening over the past year and a bit, there's some intelligence to these things to keep showing up in the same spot and doing the same patterns and movement. The formation kind of is a dead giveaway for a purpose of some kind.
Yeah, that's true. It's something that I wish we had an answer. And if you came to today's episode to get an answer, I apologize, because we're not really in the realm of being able to give answers. We're just in the realm of being able to give discussion and inform you so you can make your own decision as to what you think these things are.
Yeah, we can't shed light on this light situation.
No, we can't. But that's so far all I have on this, and we're only in not even the middle of February, and things are popping off. We've already talked about the Miami incident, which I think we both kind of agreed that is not really anything extraterrestrial related, but it seems like aliens yet again, UFOs, I should say, are taking the world by storm, in the new year. But was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm excited to see where it goes. It's becoming more and more common. So if we see some more of the stuff happening, we will have to do another episode on them.
We will, yeah. And again, we're not a news episode, or not a news episode. We're not a news podcast. We're just having discussion and sharing what we learn with you so you can form your own decisions and perspectives. But until next time, thank you, everyone. You can find us on our website, CryptidClues.ca, our social media channels, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. You can also find us on Patreon, where we get the episodes ad-free. And if you want to reach out, send us an email, cryptidclues@gmail.com. And until next time, everyone, Take care and stay safe.
Bye-bye.